Welcome to today's explainer. If you've ever felt like your writing is just kind of stuck in this rigid, robotic format, you are definitely not alone. Man, I remember literally sweating over those super strict high school essay formats. But today, we are diving into the writer's evolution, from formula to finesse. We're going to figure out exactly how to evolve past that mechanical writing we all had drilled into our heads and really unlock a completely new level of rhetorical mastery. There's this great quote. The 5-paragraph essay should be seen as a tool, not a cage. And it's so true. That basic structure we all learned, it's actually a fantastic foundation. It teaches sequence, it teaches logic. But today, let's look at how we can use it more like a springboard. We're giving ourselves the freedom to, bend the rules a bit and create writing that is flexible, sophisticated, and entirely our own.
So, here's our roadmap for unlocking these advanced tools. We'll start by moving beyond the 5-paragraph formula. Then we'll explore flexible structures and evidence. After that, we'll learn how to hook readers with anecdotes, deploy the turnabout counterargument, and finally balance the rhetorical triangle. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Beyond the 5-paragraph formula, escaping the cage.
Now, that familiar 5-paragraph structure is honestly brilliant for beginners because it pretty much cures blank page anxiety. It gives you a safe, predictable starting point, but as you've probably noticed, as you tackle more complex topics in the real world, you quickly find that big ideas just resist neat compartmentalization. The golden rule here is that structure must serve the content, not constrain it. Whether you're writing a persuasive op-ed, a formal academic paper, or a highly detailed professional report, every single context demands the flexibility to adapt your tone and your form. That's how your core argument truly shines. Section 2. Flexible structures and evidence. Building the skyscraper. Think of a basic essay, like a single-story house. It's functional, sure, but if we want to build a towering skyscraper, we need flexible frameworks. We need something called evidence clusters. Basically, this means grouping your statistics, anecdotes, quotations, or case studies all together. So for example, if you're writing about renewable energy, instead of spreading things out, you might cluster emissions data, the economic costs, and a real-world case study all right there in one paragraph. Doing this adds just incredible analytical depth. It allows multiple interconnected ideas to share a single, powerful body section instead of isolating them. It's a real game changer. Okay, let's dive into this. How do we actually build it? Here is the exact playbook to evolve that basic essay into a sophisticated 7 to 9 paragraph argument. Think of it as a life hack for your writing flow. You start by expanding your introduction for much deeper context. Then, you break those body paragraphs into sub-arguments using the evidence clusters we just talked about. Next, you integrate counter-arguments to demonstrate your critical thinking. Expand your conclusions so you're reflecting on broader implications. And finally, use strong transitions to glue all these new pieces together seamlessly. Section 3. Hooking readers with anecdotes. The power of story. Professional writing absolutely doesn't have to be dry. To genuinely persuade someone, you need an authentic voice that hooks them right from the very first line. And we do this using the story then zoom out technique. It's exactly what it sounds like. You begin with a brief human anecdote, describe the scene, and then pull back to explain its broader macro-level significance. For instance, you could start with the relatable struggle of a deeply burned-out employee, and then zoom out to discuss dry corporate wellness data. The key here is that the anecdote shouldn't dominate the piece. Instead, it acts as a bridge between human emotion and your logical argument. Actually, just listen to the difference here. City parks provide recreational spaces. Well, that's forgettable, right? But what about this? Sunlight glints off the rippling fountain. Notice how those sensory words and descriptive details just immediately pull you in? They completely transform a really dry statement into a vivid, lived experience. And that is exactly how you bring abstract ideas to life on the page. Now, let me ask you something. How do you use your opponent's argument to actually win? Take a second to think about that, because we are about to look at a highly effective persuasive technique that literally turns opposition into your absolute greatest advantage. Section 4. The Turnabout Counterargument. Engaging through opposition. Using a turnabout strategy is a massive sign of rhetorical maturity. Instead of shying away from opposing views, you actually draw readers in by creating tension and anticipation right from the jump. It works in 3 deliberate steps. First up is the acknowledgement, where you state a common or opposing belief fairly. No sarcasm allowed. Second, you execute a pivot. This is where you use a transition word like however or yet.
And third, you make your assertion, which brings the reader firmly over to your specific thesis.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why it works. It's a subtle shift, but incredibly powerful. Instead of just stating right off the bat, renewable energy is essential, you start by acknowledging the skeptics. You say, some argue it's unreliable. However, by acknowledging that opposing view first, you demonstrate open-mindedness. It instantly builds your credibility, which makes your actual argument so much more impactful.
Section 5. Balancing the Rhetorical Triangle. Voices of Persuasion.
Way back when, Aristotle outlined 3 distinct voices that basically need to share the microphone in your writing if you want to be truly persuasive. Ethos is your credibility and authority, built through solid evidence and a professional tone. Pathos is emotion and connection, fueled by those anecdotes and sensory details we were just looking at. And logos is reason and logic, driven by data and structural flow. Together, these 3 form a really holistic approach that applies to absolutely every piece of writing you'll ever do.
Notice how these require equal harmony. They are split into roughly equal thirds. See? An argument that relies entirely on cold, hard logic, that's the logos. Without the human emotion of pathos or the trust of ethos, it quickly feels dry, maybe a bit manipulative, or just totally hollow to the reader. They really have to work together as a team.
But if we had to pick one as the absolute bedrock, it's ethos, for sure. Ethos is the foundation of trust. You build it by using reliable evidence, representing opposing views accurately, and keeping an ethical tone throughout. Because remember, no matter how emotionally gripping or intensely logical your argument might be, if your reader doesn't trust you, it all falls apart. Literally, the whole shebang just collapses.
So how do we synthesize all of this into pure finesse? Well, you frame your evidence clusters to build your logic, your logos. You use those story, then zoom out narratives to engage your reader's emotion, their pathos. Strategically position your citations and those clever turnabout counterarguments to build trust, which is your ethos. And always, always adapt your tone to your specific audience and format.
This right here is the ultimate writer's evolution. We've moved from rigid structure to fluid style, from basic clarity to undeniable persuasion. By combining these techniques, you finally have the tools to make your writing not just technically competent, but truly, truly memorable.
So, I'll leave you with this question. What formula will you break out of in your next piece of writing? You have the finesse, the framework, and the freedom now. Thanks for joining this explainer. Now get out there, face that blank page, and build something incredible.